that you can dress however you want, you can identify however you want, you can change your name from Joe to Joanna, you can do all those things. I have no problem with that at all. You can call yourself trans, you can dress yourself up, that's fine. But when you try to force other people to validate and acknowledge your identity, that's where I have a problem.
Right.
Because the thing is that if you're dressing up and redefining yourself and changing your name and changing your look, that's your freedom. But if you then say, well, every other woman on the planet has to accept my so-called womanhood and let me into women's spaces, let me partake in women's sports, let me stand for positions that are traditionally reserved for women, then you're interfering with their freedom.
I used to agree with this point of view, and I no longer do. And here's why. I get the appeal of thinking about it in this way. I get that it signals that you're a compassionate person, that you're committed to freedom, and that you're reasonable. I also, incidentally, am a compassionate person, committed to freedom and reasonable. That's the reasons why I fight against the trans ideology, incidentally, because I am compassionate, reasonable, and committed to freedom. And so I understand that this feels almost like a acceptable compromise to say, well, live and let live, but not when it potentially endangers physically women. However, here's the problem with that. You're either a man or you're a woman. And if you're a man in every circumstance, in every environment, regardless of the people around you. And if you're a woman in every circumstance, regardless of the environment or the people around you. Your personality may change as you go from one environment to another or one group to another, but the fact of your maleness does not. The fact of your femaleness does not. So it's actually quite unreasonable to treat Joe as Joanna at the water cooler in the office, but then to treat Joe as Joe when it comes time to drop the kids off at the pool, so to speak. And when it comes time to use the restroom or pick the sports teams, whatever it is, it actually is not at all reasonable to treat Joe as Joanna in the office, in the supermarket, but then not in the bathroom. That makes no sense whatsoever. In this case, Joe is actually the reasonable one saying, hey, no, you treat me as a woman in all these other circumstances. Treat me as a woman in this circumstance. I'm a real woman. Treat me like one. And we see that. We see that when you give these people an inch, they take a mile. And it's almost not even their fault, because if you feed people lies, they're going to believe the lies. And if you tell someone that he can dress like a woman, behave like a woman, and be treated like a woman in the office, in the supermarket, in church on Sunday, then the next reasonable thing is, well, then why can't I use the women's restroom? And why can't I use the women's locker room? Trans women are real women, etc., etc. It's like the abortion thing. It started off safe, legal, and rare. But see, the problem is when you tell women it's okay to end the life of your preborn offspring as long as it's within, the first 12, 15 weeks, whatever it is, well, then it becomes, if it's okay to end the life of my preborn offspring, why does it have to be relegated to the first 12 to 15 weeks? Why? To what end? It is a slippery slope. The slippery slope does exist because when you're lying to people, telling them that something is okay, well, then everything very quickly becomes okay because you fed them these lies. You cannot live half in reality and half in a fantasy. It's either okay to kill your preborn offspring or it's not. It's either okay for a man to be in a dress, to expect the people around him to treat him like a woman, to imagine that he's a woman, or it's not. It's not just not okay. It's not just a lie on the soccer field. It is a lie everywhere. It is not okay everywhere. And this is not me saying that people should be run out of town or anything untoward should happen. We don't live in the Wild West. We are not living in tribes anymore. I'm not saying shun people from the tribe and leave them out in the cold wilderness. But what I'm saying is that it is a lie. It is a lie if a man pretends to be a woman. It is a lie that a man can put on a dress and take a female name, and that is just as respectable, just as equal a life choice as a man being a man being who he was born to be. Joe being Joe is not the same thing as Joe being Joanna. They are not equal life choices. And so these people who, yes, we do live in a free country, but these people who make these choices should feel a healthy dose of shame. If your friends want to call you a certain type of thing, and that's something that you guys do, you know what? Friends are going to do what friends are going to do. I can't stop anyone from changing their name or dressing however, but Joe should not be expecting to be treated like Joanna in the grocery store any more than he should be expecting to be treated like Joanna on the basketball court. You're either Joanna or you're not. And you're not Joanna, even in the grocery store, even when you're not presumably at risk of preying on women or entering women-only spaces. This is the problem with conceding, with feeding, with giving air, life, and breath to a lie. It grows bigger and bigger and bigger.